The first step of the 15 steps of our Seder is the Kadesh, the recitation of Kiddush. So here we are, we have our table set. It's a special evening. We gather around the table and everybody sits down and they're prepared for Kiddush. So here I am, I'm at my place, and the leader of the Seder is at the head of the table, preparing to begin. So it looks just like a regular Kiddush, but there's something unusual. See, at a regular Kiddush at my table, I don't have a Kiddush cup at my place when there's a Seder, when there's a person who's saying the Kiddush for me. But if I look around the Seder table, there's something unusual, and that is that every person at their place has their own cup of wine or grape juice, be that as it may. So why is that? What's different about it? And in truth, in many homes, actually everybody on their own recites the Kiddush. What's unique about this? That's question number one. If we shift our focus for a minute to an interesting sociological phenomenon, we know that it's very popular nowadays for students, for young people, to travel to Poland and other areas of Eastern Europe to learn about the Holocaust. There's the March of the Living and other kinds of trips. And you wonder, why is it that they do this? Why don't they just study the Holocaust from the book? And the answer, we all know the answer. It's pretty simple. And that is that experiential learning is different than just book knowledge. The rabbi said that the Seder night, it's not just learning from a book. It's not just studying a text. It's an experience. That's what we say, Chayav Adam Liros Esatzmo. A person has to see themselves Ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim, as if I, tonight, am leaving Mitzrayim. That's why some have the custom, they actually, I think in Sephardic communities, they put the matzah on their shoulder and they run around the table. Why? Because they got to make it seem as if we are leaving Mitzrayim tonight. That's the way we're supposed to feel. Now we understand, perhaps, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zev Halevi Soloveitchik, the Brisker Rav, why tonight's Kiddush is different than every other Kiddush. He says, take a look in the Rambam. The Rambam, in Hilchos Chametz and Matzah, in the Rambam's Mishnah Torah, in the 7th chapter, in the 9th halacha, tells us something interesting about the cups. Because we know there are supposed to be 4 cups at everyone's Seder. We drink arba kosos. And these 4 cups remind us of the 4 languages of redemption. That's what Rashi points out. 4 languages of redemption. V'hotzesi, v'hitzalti, v'goalti, v'lakachti. Everyone knows about the 4 cups. Well, the Rambam says there are 2 laws pertaining to the 4 cups. First, Rambam tells us that these 4 cups need to be drunk from wine which is diluted. See, in the old days, they had very, very strong wine, and if you didn't dilute the wine, it was terrible. And the other point the Rambam makes is that these 4 cups have to be drunk in appropriate junctures of our Seder. Those are the 2 halachos that the Rambam puts out as part of the Dalet Kosos, the 4 cups. Seems pretty straightforward. But the Rambam says something very interesting based on his text of the Gemara in Maseches Pesachim. Says the Rambam, Shasa arba kosos elu miyayin she'eno mazug. If a person drank these 4 cups from wine that wasn't diluted, yatsa yedei arba kosos. They fulfill their obligation of 4 kosos. But v'lo yatsa yedei cherus. They didn't fulfill their obligation of freedom. You didn't fulfill the obligation of freedom. Shasa arba kosos mezugim b'vasachas. Then the Rambam says immediately, if you drank 4 cups that were diluted, but you drank them 1, 2, 3, 4 in succession, yatsa yedei cherus v'lo yatsa yedei arba kosos. You fulfilled your obligation of freedom, but not that of drinking arba kosos of 4 cups. Says Rav Yitzchak Zev Halevi Soloveitchik. Says the Brisker Rav in this Sefer, in the Chidushei Moran Riz Halevi on the Rambam. Something fascinating. He says, yes, there is a din, a halacha of Daled Kosos. And that's what the Rambam says. You must have 4 cups. And if you didn't drink them in the proper order, it's like Kiddush. Imagine I made Kiddush on a Tuesday afternoon. I didn't fulfill my obligation of Kiddush. Kiddush has to be said at a specific time, at a specific juncture, on my Shabbos. That's din of Dalet Kosos. That's one aspect. It's a recitation like every other recitation. It's a ritual act of Kiddush. That's Yedei Arba Kosos. But then there's something else. And that is, says the Rambam, Yidei Cherus. Cherus is the feeling that we get when we drink a l'chaim, when we celebrate with this beverage, when we celebrate our freedom. Cherus is freedom. Now I understand. Says the Brisker Rav, there are two aspects of this Kiddush at the Seder. On the one hand, there's Kiddush like every Yom Tov, like every Shabbos. It's a mitzvah of Kiddush. It's part of the Dalet Kosos, but the mitzvah of Dalet Kosos has an element of Kiddush. That's Kiddush like every other Kiddush. But also, we have a component of feeling freedom as part of our Dalet Kosos. Now we understand why it has to be number one in 4 different locations in our Haggadah. That's like the mitzvah of Kiddush. It has to be at the beginning of our Shabbos meal. But also it has to be pleasant wine. Because if it's not delicious, you're not going to feel the freedom. The Kiddush, as we start our Seder, every one of us stands around and sits around our table. We look down and we say, I have a Kiddush cup. You know why I have a Kiddush cup? Because it reminds me that I'm making a l'chaim. That I'm celebrating our freedom tonight. Here's a toast. Can I enjoy your toast? Can I feel good when you're drinking? No, I have to drink myself. So perhaps that's why tonight, as we begin our Seder, with the Dalet Kosos, with the 4 cups, the first of which is Kadesh, of Kiddush, we all drink because we're setting the stage for an evening of experience. And that is what we begin with, drinking of the first of the 4 cups.